Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Radio Free Gastonia, the internet's number one source for all right, just good enough emergency historical content. We've been doing this for over 4 years now, um, which is hard to believe. But as you can see, I'm in seemingly an 8-year-old boy's bedroom. Nothing inappropriate happening, I promise. But I'm staying with my folks in North Carolina for a little bit. Um, And so, I've been thinking about a lot since I've been back. And, one of the classes I'm teaching is one of my favorite ones, which is um, Introduction to Historical Methods, which is like kind of the basic like course that all history majors have to take. And surprisingly, some other majors take too, which, that's cool. I love it. I love this class because I don't have to actually remember anything. It's like, oh, when did we start bombing Cambodia? Like, it's more of a theory and methods type of course than a content type of course. And so I've tried to talk about modernism and Marxism and all these different theories, and I don't really know what is the right way to approach this. Like, I wanted to talk about postmodernism. Um, Postmodernism at this point seems like very passe. I mean, I think most historians never really got into postmodernism because it's just not in our nature. Um, Apart from, little Hayden White here and there and Foucault, like we're kind of positivists. I mean, we genuinely do believe you go find the evidence and the archive and you write it down. And there's some correspondence between um, what we write and reality, hopefully, right? Um, so I know postmodernism was such an influential thing in the 1980s, 1990s, and I've thought about this a lot. Like, I really find it fascinating because I think, I mean, I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I think I'm part of the last generation of people who cared about selling out. In the 90s, and there's indie alternative rock and um, this kind of new counterculture in a sense. Like Riot Girl and Bikini Kill and like selling out mattered. It's like, oh, you signed to a major label. Oh, you let your song be in a Hyundai commercial? Are you crazy? That's disgusting. And I think it's a very post Napster type of situation that we're in now. I wrote a whole book about this, but that the whole concept of selling out seems like really like meaningless to most people, and I think especially younger people, right? And I am of a certain age, but um, I do remember a time when like putting your song in a commercial for a car would be considered um, very, at the very least, undignified, if not almost traitorous. But when you hear like an MIA song, she's supposed. I mean, I think she's Trumpy now, but like supposedly like a radical Marxist artist or something, something. And then she's in a Hyundai Sonata commercial with paper planes. Something happened after the rise of file sharing, and I guess more broadly speaking, Web 2.0, social media, etc., where it just didn't. You were like, well, artists are never not. I mean, artists have never gotten paid ever. But if artists aren't getting paid, then yeah, I'm not gonna begrudge Death Cab for Cutie for putting their song in a Kellogg's cornflakes commercial. They're like, you got to get that money. You have to get paid. You know what I'm saying? And it's something that I've seen in my own lifetime, and I think that I'm like have one foot in that older generation when people cared about things like that, and one foot in the new generation, which is like I'm grinding. I'm on YouTube. I'm just trying to get my followers up. I'm trying to get like any kind of endorsement or any kind of, AdSense revenue or like it's to the people who were born since like 1995 or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. They're like, well, of course you get up and you grind every day. Like, what is this authenticity selling out? What are you guys talking about? Like, it, and I don't mean that in a disparaging sense. Like, I actually, I mean, I sympathize with the point of view, which is like, there are ways to make money, and making some, hipster in a record store in Seattle think that you're cool is like not going to pay the bills. And so, I mean, I'm very pragmatic in general in terms of like money and things. So I get it, but it's just it does strike me as so odd. I heard like an interview with Thurston Moore the other day, and I was shocked to find out he's like 67 or something. Um, somebody whose band started before I was born. But also that's another thing. I remember people talking about Sonic Youth back in the day. They're like, they were some of the most aggressively self-promoting people in the world. They would go to the coolest party and just like sort of, I mean, people said this. I don't know if it actually happened, but they were part of that like no wave, like noise punk, like very radical kind of musical movement in the early to mid 80s. But Sonic Youth was always on the grind too. And maybe they had to act like they weren't because it was considered sort of gauche, I guess, or like unseemly to be too self-promotional. Now everything is self-promotion. And I really I don't, I mean, I teach students who are in their late teens, early 20s, and I also have a ton of other students who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. The place where I teach is pretty wide range. Like the term non-traditional student doesn't really mean much at our institution because like so many people are quote unquote non-traditional. But um, I don't know what goes on in the mind of someone who's maybe under the age of 27 at this point. But I do see that like a whole different ethos of like creativity, and I would almost say a sense of selfhood, um, or subjectivity is very different from what you might have seen in the 1980s or 1990s if you were part of these like indie punk kind of scenes. Um, and I'm not a hater. I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying something has changed. Um, and it's almost like an okay boomer type of thing. It's like, well, if you grew up in a world that was clearly dying and falling apart, and basically if you were born in 1996, like since you were able to know anything, it's been nothing but terrorism and war and depression and plague. Like, and the cost of housing and school and everything skyrocketing and healthcare. You'd be like, I gotta get that money. You know what I'm saying? Um, so it's interesting. On a tangential note, I mean, I think kind of the divide between conscious rap and like gangster rap that was so salient in the 90s also seems to be completely irrelevant now. It seems to me. I feel like Kanye West was kind of like a pivotal figure in that shift, but I mean, I don't know. That's something I want to think about a little bit more. But um, yeah, this is a long way of saying, I'm decided to sell out. It's like the movie, I'm sorry to bother you. I've sold my body to Mitsubishi, but I got a good deal. I have a financial advisor. He's rock solid. I am going to be turned into an automobile, but I'm going to get like an insane interest rate. So, you might also want to think about selling out. Anyway, these are just some thoughts that are in my mind. Our semester is getting close to the end now, and just all this theoretical stuff I've been thinking about a lot. And so these are some ideas. Anyway, I just want to share. I will next time you see me, I will be a small SUV. All right. Bye, everybody.